welcome to On the Record. I'm Michael Aron. New Jersey's infrastructure needs some repair, and that's our subject this week. Negotiations stalled this summer over how to fund the state's nearly broke Transportation Trust Fund. As a result, Governor Christie halted all TTF-funded projects. Contentious talks between the governor and the two top Democratic leaders, Senate President Steve Sweeney and Assembly Speaker Vincent Prieto, eventually resulted in a compromise earlier this month. The deal increases the gas tax by 23 cents per gallon, decreases the sales tax by 0.375%, raises the earned income tax credit from 30 to 35% of the federal credit, phases out the estate tax, and provides income tax exemptions for veterans and retirees. Nearly everyone is in agreement that the TTF needs stable funding, but before the ink was dry on the newly signed bill, it faced criticism from many sides. And with us now to examine the deal, Janet Chernitz, Director of New Jersey Policy at the Tri-State Transportation Campaign, and Alelia Mejia, Director of New Jersey Working Families, Erica Jednak, the New Jersey State Director of Americans for Prosperity, and Sal Risalvato, Executive Director of the Gasoline Retailers and Convenience Store Association. Later in the program, Kent Manahan talks to former Governor Christie Whitman about the new Chemical Security Act. Let me start with you, Jana. Was this a good deal for New Jersey?
Well, it depends. It was a good deal for the Transportation Trust Fund, which, as you know, is broke, and it was there was no money in it, and projects were put on hold. But it's a credit negative tax deal. We have a $1.4 billion hole in the general fund with raising the gas tax. But unfortunately, this is how it had to happen because the governor had put these restrictions on being able to replenish the Transportation Trust Fund.
And Alelia, I have a feeling you feel the same way.
Yeah, we were calling this Robin Hood in reverse. The reality is that the majority of the tax breaks that we're given are going to go to the wealthiest amongst us, and it's a perpetual loss just to get a Band-Aid fixed on the TTF over the course of a few years.
It's a perpetual loss of revenue to the general fund.
Exactly. It's almost $1.4 billion.
Go ahead.
Well, it's 1.4 overall when fully implemented.
Billion per year.
Per year, and $1 billion of that actually goes to the wealthiest amongst us in terms of the estate tax, or the loss in the sales tax that predominantly the big recoup is going to be to those who could spend the most money on taxable items in New Jersey.
Erica, you obviously feel differently about this.
Yeah, I definitely believe it was a really raw deal for taxpayers. So not just the gas tax hike on everyone, but the tax cuts that were made are really only if you retire or when you die. So regular working people are not getting any relief. And I think that the figure was you'd have to spend about $45,000 in just regular goods to actually have it be a wash.
It was the governor who insisted on there even being tax cuts at all. You would have been even more upset had it just been a hike in the gas tax standing alone?
No, you know what, I think, right, these have to be separate discussions. If we have an issue with transportation funding, let's actually talk about it. To me, it doesn't make any sense that we're going to take away from this one area for this area, right? Let's have policy-focused discussions on each.
Sal, you've been a supporter of the Transportation Trust Fund, as I understand it?
I don't like to say that I've been a supporter. You asked if this was a good deal.
For New Jersey. For
New Jersey. I'm going to say it's a bitter deal. However, it's a better deal than if they did nothing. I've been preparing my members who are going to bear a big brunt of this themselves for over the last 2 years because of the inevitability, because of the mess that was made in the Transportation Trust Fund. We knew it was inevitable that something was going to happen. So we just wanted to make sure that when it did happen, it was the best deal possible. And this, I think, is the best deal possible. So it's good from that point of view, but it is bitter all the same.
What does it mean for a gas station owner to suddenly have to collect additional tax? Is it simple? Is it a simple adjustment or not?
It's not as simple as just making an adjustment. First, anytime the price of gas goes up a penny, my members bear the brunt of that from the motoring public. Two, what does this actually mean in terms of dollars and cents? When that truckload of gasoline arrives at the gas station on Tuesday morning, it will cost exactly $1,955 more than it did if that truckload arrived on Monday morning. That is money that my member has to take out of their pocket to invest in capital.
The tax is going up on the gas station owner? I thought it only was going up on the motorist who's buying the gas.
Well, the truckload of gas will cost more because the new tax will be applied when that truck is delivered. So then the price gets raised. However, this is something
who sends the money to the state?
The tax is on the invoice when it arrives at the gas station. Further, the state of New Jersey is going to require each of my members to record their inventory at midnight. Whatever is in the underground storage tank, they will have to send 23 cents for every single one of those gallons to Trenton. So if they have 20,000 gallons in storage, they've got to come up with almost another $5,000 in investment for inventory that has to be sent to Trenton.
We've been enjoying $2 gas for quite a while now. It wasn't that long ago that we were paying $4 for a gallon of gas and more, maybe 5 years ago. Isn't this a good time to be hiking the gas tax by 23 cents, all things being equal?
Well, the gas prices fluctuate all the time. The time to have raised the gas tax was years ago. And as you know, we've been kicking the can down the road. And the reason why it's 23 cents now is because we've been putting it off for so long. It's trying to pay 2016 bills with a salary from 1988. You just can't do it. So 23 cents is where we had to be. But you know, the price, as I said, the price of gas is going to fluctuate. And we're just going to have to pay it if we want to see our roads repaired, if we want to see our bridges replaced, mass transit expansion. This is what has to get done regardless of where the price of gas is. This is a necessity.
Go ahead.
I just want to add that all things are not actually equal for most New Jerseyans. For the working poor, for those who are dependent on public transportation, for those who are barely holding on to their low-wage jobs and their homes and finding themselves in such precarious positions, the reality is that this increase is going to hit the poorest amongst us very, very hard, irrespective of whether they actually drive.
Was there a better way to do it than the gas tax?
Absolutely. Again, and this is what's incredible about this issue, that the extreme left, quote unquote, progressive organizations such as myself and Americans for Prosperity are exactly in agreement that this should have been separate, that this should have been something that shouldn't have been held hostage by our governor, and we should have made a smarter decision earlier to fund our infrastructure that's very important, but not siphon off critical resources for all New Jerseyans.
Given that we are where we are, or that we were where we were a month ago, is the gas tax better than hiking some other tax, the sales tax, or slapping the sales tax onto gas purchases, or I mean, was it the best of some all bad alternatives?
I think the need for dedicated money to go into fixing our infrastructure, there's no running away from that. Whether it was raising the gas tax in the way that we did or finding an alternative solution, I think the bottom line is that we had to do it. It's unfortunate, however, because again, what we're talking about is increasing dedicated funds to one particular issue area or one area at the expense of so much.
Erica, is the gas tax the right vehicle? You said earlier that these other tax cuts should have been dealt with separately.
Yes.
A point of view I've heard in this studio a couple of weeks ago from Republican gubernatorial candidate Jack Ciattarelli. He said, I don't know why we mixed all these things together, but given that the need to do something was there, is the gas tax hike acceptable looked at that way?
No, I don't think so. And I don't think it's, nothing's off the table with this discussion, right? The gas tax is a user fee. But with 4 different studies out there that no one really knows what we're spending per mile, and then so many areas of reform.
On road repairs.
Right.
We spend apparently the highest in the nation on road repairs.
Right.
And a lot of people have seized upon that as an area where we should find savings before we raise the gas tax.
Exactly. It's a sin that we're now going to be spending so much more in a system, in a program that wastes money, not to mention the billions in dollars of debt that we're going to be adding on the backs of New Jersey taxpayers.
The two of you exchanged a glance when she just said what it costs to repair roads in New Jersey. You don't buy that argument, or?
Well, first of all, we don't really have a study that we can really point to and say this is the actual cost. You have interest from this side saying it costs this much, and interest from that side saying it costs this much, but really we don't truly know who is right and who is wrong. But the situation that we are in necessitated that we do something to pay for our roads and bridges. As I said, we've had the same spending power since 2006 with our roads and bridges. We've had a stagnant transportation trust fund. As the prices of materials increase, as the price of labor increases, you're going to be able to do less and less. So,
do you buy it that our construction costs are the highest in the nation?
There are a lot of reasons why prices could be more in New Jersey than other states. The amount of mileage that needs to be maintained, the time of day, the price of goods. I mean, we don't want to see roads closed during peak hours. Doing construction at night probably makes more sense in New Jersey. But with that argument aside, we were in a crisis situation. The Transportation Trust Fund being broke, things being shut down, it affects the bottom line. It affects the bottom lines of those people who are working in transportation construction, and it affects the bottom line of business owners. So this was, had we done the responsible thing, administration after administration, by incrementally raising the gas tax, or even having it a sales tax with a floor, so we didn't go too far down when gas price was decreased. But had we been doing the responsible thing, administration after administration, we wouldn't have felt the larger increase.
Sal, you were shaking your head on
She used 2 words that would have been very bad public policy. And it was one of the things that my organization opposed strenuously: sales tax on gasoline. Sales tax on gasoline would have cost the state of New Jersey an enormous amount of money in administrative costs, collection costs, and auditing costs, and in unknown in fraud costs. And if the state would have collected even $1 billion by putting sales tax on gasoline, they would have only kept about $900 million because of the costs involved in collecting a sales tax. But by raising the essential motor fuels tax, for $1 billion that they raise, they get to keep every penny of it, and that's good public policy. We spoke with legislators for the past several years, and our position was simple. If you just raise the motor fuels tax, as much as we don't like it, we won't oppose you. But if you put sales tax on it, to be able to say we didn't raise the gas tax, we just closed the loophole and put sales tax instead, then my organization will come out guns blazing.
Do you agree with Jana that 10 years ago we should have had a slow incremental program for steady increase in the gas tax? I think
Michael,
John Wisniewski had a bill in to do that.
I'm going to say this, because mea culpa. I'm one of the people that for the last 28 years, I have strenuously opposed any increase at all in the gas tax. But looking back over that 28 years, if we had increased the gas tax incrementally, all of the debt that the TTF now has would not be there, and all of the money that we borrowed instead of taking in revenue from the sales tax because people like myself opposed it, we would not be in the exact same position we're in now, and our roads and bridges would be in better shape, our rails would be in better shape, our buses would be in better shape, and we wouldn't be sitting here discussing this because it would be a non-issue.
Erica, what's the likelihood of a rollback? There are some Republican legislators beating the drum for taking a second look at this. What's the likelihood of it happening?
It's very unlikely. You know, we haven't put any bandwidth into that at Americans for Prosperity. While I totally understand a lot of the public and opposition that's going on right now, it's passed. It's signed. It's signed into law. Let's move forward and have a discussion about reforms, right? Look at the toll money, the Turnpike Authority, right? More efficiencies in government. Let's move forward.
I think it's important for us to, I find this incredible, and I hope that all New Jerseyans are really paying attention to all the things that actually went wrong here and how we could actually fix our larger issue, which is we allowed politics, we allowed shenanigans to essentially hamstring our state, hamstring good public policy, and we cannot continue to accept it.
What did we allow?
Well, so we allowed, for example, our governor held hostage the legislature and the entire state and said, if you don't pass these incredibly regressive tax breaks, I'm going to actually create a system in which bridges can collapse.
Are they so regressive?
Absolutely.
Increasing the earned income tax credit helps your very constituency.
It's peanuts in comparison. When you look at that $1.4 billion that is siphoned out, $1 billion of it is going to the wealthiest amongst us. We're talking about estates that are worth over $675 million are no longer $1,000 are no longer going to have to pay into an estate tax. When you look at who's actually going to benefit from this reduction in the sales tax,
people say,
again, people who are going to spend upwards of thousands and thousands of dollars.
People say $675,000 in this day and age is not really
for most New Jerseyans, I got to tell you, we're talking about 4,000 estates out of how many? We're only talking about 4% of estates a year are actually have to pay into that estate tax. So most New Jerseyans watching would never have to pay the estate tax. Most New Jerseyans watching are not going to get a break out of this sales tax reduction. But you know what we are going to see? Less services, less programs, less money into the collective good. So we're going to pay a bigger price at the gas, at the pump, and at home, unfortunately.
I saw you shaking your head.
My members are not wealthy, and that estate tax affects my members in a big way.
What's a gas station worth?
A gas station could be worth today anywhere from $1 million to $2 million. But when that proprietor, that small business owner, owns that business, he's paying a huge amount of money to the bank for the privilege to own it. And then someday it's paid off. So he doesn't have all of that money in his pocket to live frivolously. He gets to a certain point in his life, it's paid off, and he dies. And then the state comes and takes it. And that's wrong. My members are not wealthy. We would have never supported this additional tax on gasoline if the estate tax wasn't included. And let me go further and say
you have about 15 seconds to finish
the legislators that actually voted for passage of the increase, they are the legislators that had the guts. That was the toughest position to take. Democrats and Republicans...
To phase out the estate tax?
To increase the gas tax and make the compromise.
All right.
Legislators, Democrats and Republicans alike, had guts to vote for this.
We got to wrap it up there. Thank you all very much.
They had something.